This area is one of the feet of the machine. This one's in great shape. But over here is the one that's stuck coming off. It's got significant corrosion, so I'll need to clean that metal up. Over here, this is just old grease that was placed there on purpose to lubricate a movement. But now it's past its prime. Time for me to clean it off and replace it with a new lubricant. You ratchet the set handle. That's this movement. And of course, if it's really, really stiff, this could be a reason why. This old grease is no longer lubricating. It's functioning a little more like glue than lubricant. Other end, same deal. Here we're looking at the underside of the buttons. All of that needs to move more freely than it will. There's a small amount of rust and corrosion and a good-sized amount of fuzz and some old grease. So that's an area I need to give attention to when cleaning. What I'm going to use for my first attempt. Of the two LPS products that we use, LPS 1 is the one that does the greatest cleaning. So that and a toothbrush and some shop towels, I'm going to attack this old dingy stuff and see how far I get and if anything else is needed. The LPS 1 is not the most aggressive cleaner you can use, but it doesn't damage anything it touches. Part of this corrosion is very likely due to moisture damage, and the LPS 1 is a moisture displacer, so that's going to help us dry it out and prevent any more incursion, which is very important to me because I live in a very humid climate. This has been sprayed down with LPS 1, then scrubbed a little with the toothbrush, and wiped down with the shop towel. And you can see some nastiness came off. And now it's running very, very smoothly. It's just as easy as it can be to rotate. Here I've sprayed and I'm letting it soak a minute. I haven't yet scrubbed and wiped. Now I'm in the process. I've scrubbed and wiped once, sprayed again, and you need to rotate the ratchet handle because you can see more crud getting exposed. So I'll need to get off camera and clean in that second position. I sprayed LPS 1 down into the underside of the button mechanism, and it foamed and washed out a bunch of stuff, and some of that you can see down here. Need to fish out anything that washes within reach, and then I'll need to get that nastiness out and turn it right side up and see where did any other bits of fuzz and debris wash and pull them out. Running the toothbrush along above and below the buttons, got out that fuzz right away. I need to keep doing that. I sprayed this whole area with LPS 1, scrubbed a little with the toothbrush, then wiped it down with this, and it's pretty clean. I need to continue along here. It's been sprayed. You can see the moisture. That's going to take a little more abrasion to get off the last of that. It's coming. Yep, there's a little actual corrosion there. I'm going to keep going with the LPS 1 and the toothbrush. It would be faster to use a metal file or an emery cloth, but if possible, I'd like to do this with the least aggressive method available, so as not to change the shape or amount of metal appreciably. The fact that these needles are all the way forward, you've got to either take them out or put them in various positions in order to get the whole cleaning job done. Either is okay. I decided to leave them in because I figured that using the cleaners and the lubricants with them in might be adequate attention for these needles. They're in pretty good shape. If you decide to take them out, it's a piece of cake like that. If you decide to put them back in, it's not a piece of cake. They go in the normal way. But then because of that bump that they have, you got to wiggle them back into place. That one behaved itself for me, but they don't always. It's a very specific movement. You'll get better at it. I had to lift on the back just a little, but not as high as it would go. And it took me a few tries to remember the feel of it. So if you have trouble replacing them, like that one's giving me trouble, don't despair, just wiggle gently, you'll find the spot. This needle has more than a permissible amount of corrosion on it. The problem is going to be that that is enough to impact its movement through the carriage. If it doesn't move smoothly, it may cause knitting problems. So I'm going to address that with this brass brush and see if I can save the needle. 2 minutes later, it's still stained, but what makes me think that it will knit nicely now is not so much its looks. My hand can't really feel any roughness, so if my hand can't, then probably the carriage can't either. If I'm wrong, I'll try one more time before tossing it. The area of the bed where the toothbrush is laying has been successfully cleaned of the little bit of dinginess you still see on this area. There we go, that's a better shot. What that is probably a light coating of oxidized oil. And generally the LPS1, having soaked for a minute, will be enough to loosen it and allow you to scrub it off without anything more dramatic. I think it's coming now. When that doesn't work, you can use the brass brush or something a little bit abrasive, although it's best to be minimal in the abrasion, of course. The brass is not as abrasive as something that would be equally hard with steel. That's why the brass brush. But if you don't have to use any abrasion, it's better to avoid it. Keep an eye out for things like this. There's some fuzz caught in that spring. There's some fuzz caught in all of them. Once you've put in the LPS1, those things tend to clump together and not be so hard to get out, and out they must come. If you do as I did and disarrange a spring or two while cleaning, it's okay. See those posts? Just reach in with your fingertip, which I won't be able to do on camera, and resettle the bottom of the spring on the post. I'm trying to show you what the needles are coming through. We're now at the back of the machine out of the case. When you get them reinserted, that's where they're through. Here's the foot that was in pretty good shape, cleaned and ready to go back. I am not trying to get off these little marks. Jack uses that kind of shadow of where the supports and the screws previously were to help us reposition them. Here's the one that was so cruddy. It is not going to be beautiful again unless I get really aggressive, and I don't think there's any need to do that. But I've gone back and forth, soaking it with LPS, brushing it with the toothbrush, and finally finished up lightly with the brass brush. And that has gotten off all the corrosion, not all sign that it was ever there, but it now feels smooth, and it should stop damage to the metal. Here's what we normally use for lubing knitting machines. Another LPS product called food grade silicone lubricant. So I won't be able to get to all this stuff easily again that's underneath here once it gets back in the case. So everything that I can, I'm lubricating now. And I'm also using this opportunity to let the camera help me see some things I can't actually see with the naked eye because of angle, looking for bits of fuzz and crud. And so far, I don't see anything major that I've missed. There's a hair. These are the products that we've been using. They're what we always use. How we found them is Jack hired a chemical engineer to research the needs of machine knitters. They suggested these, and we've now been using them for about 20 plus years, maybe 25. People often ask me, well, could I use this, that, or the other since I can't get what you use? And I just can't answer in all fairness. I have used some other things myself. I haven't used any of them for 25 years, though. And this is the one the scientists told us would sure to work, and I didn't say a word until I'd used it for maybe 10 years. So I don't have the time in my life left to research another batch of cleaners and lubricants to this degree. There are others in the world that will work. I just can't speak for them.